Don't embarrass us at the gala, Dad warned over the phone, his tone sharp with that familiar edge of disapproval. My new partner owns half the city. We can't risk you saying something stupid. I sat in my corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the city lights flicker to life below. The Wall Street Journal cover featuring my face hung framed on the wall behind my desk. Okay, I replied simply. I'm serious, Jennifer. Marcus Castellano is a billionaire. He's invested $50 million in my real estate firm. Your mother and I finally have a chance to move in the right circles. We can't have you there making awkward conversation about your little tech thing. My little tech thing. The company I'd built from scratch in a garage 7 years ago, now valued at $2.3 billion. The AI-powered logistics platform that revolutionized supply chain management for Fortune 500 companies. The business that employed 847 people and generated $680 million in annual revenue. I understand, I said quietly. Good. The gala is Saturday. Stay home. Your sister will be there, of course. She knows how to handle herself in high society. He hung up without saying goodbye. I set my phone down and returned to reviewing the merger documents spread across my mahogany desk. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Marcus Castellano, CEO of Castellano Holdings, was scheduled to visit our headquarters for preliminary discussions about a $400 million merger between his logistics division and my company. My executive team had been preparing for this meeting for 6 weeks. The irony wasn't lost on me. But I'd learned long ago not to correct my family's assumptions about my life. My relationship with my parents had always been complicated, defined by a single unchangeable fact. I wasn't Jessica, my older sister. Jessica had done everything right. She'd married Richard Thornton III at 24, a man from old money whose family name opened doors across 3 states. She lived in a sprawling colonial in the same gated community where my parents had recently purchased their dream home. She drove a white Range Rover and spent her days planning charity luncheons and redecorating rooms that didn't need redecorating. I'd gone a different direction. At 18, I'd turned down the state university my parents had selected and accepted a full scholarship to MIT. Computer science? Mom had said, her voice dripping with concern. That's so technical. Who will you meet? I'd met brilliant professors, venture capitalists, and co-founders who believed in my vision. By 23, I'd launched Logicore AI from a rented garage in Cambridge. By 26, we'd secured Series B funding of $85 million. By 28, we'd gone public and I'd become the youngest female CEO of a publicly traded tech company. My parents had attended none of it. Not the product launch. Not the IPO celebration. Not the TechCrunch Disruptor Award ceremony where I'd been named Entrepreneur of the Year. We saw the article. Mom had said once, her tone implying I'd committed a minor social faux pas. Very nice, dear. Though that photo wasn't your most flattering angle. They simply couldn't comprehend what I'd built. To them, success meant the right address, the right club membership, the right last name. My sister had achieved all 3 through marriage. I'd achieved none through choice, focusing instead on building something that mattered. 5 years ago, when I'd bought my penthouse in Tribeca for $8.9 million in cash, I'd mentioned it to Mom over brunch. That's nice, dear, she'd said, barely looking up from her phone. Jessica and Richard are renovating their pool house. $30,000 for the tile work alone. Such quality. I'd stopped sharing after that. My father, Robert Anderson, had spent 40 years in commercial real estate, managing properties for other people's firms. He'd done well enough. Comfortable upper-middle-class life, country club membership, annual vacation to somewhere warm. But he'd never broken through to the level he desperately wanted. He'd never been the man writing the checks. He'd always been the man cashing them. 6 months ago everything changed. He'd called me, excited in a way I rarely heard. I'm starting my own firm. Anderson and Associates Real Estate Holdings. I've got a major investor backing me. That's great, Dad, I'd said, genuinely happy for him. How much capital? $50 million. His voice swelled with pride. Marcus Castellano himself. He owns half the commercial real estate in the city. He believes in my vision. I'd looked up Marcus Castellano immediately after the call. Castellano Holdings. $4.2 billion in assets, commercial real estate empire spanning 17 states, recent expansion into logistics and supply chain infrastructure. My research team had already identified his logistics division, Castellano Transport Solutions, as our primary merger target. We'd been in quiet negotiations with his CFO for 2 months. Marcus Castellano had invested $50 million in my father's tiny startup firm as what appeared to be a favor or minor bet. He was about to invest $400 million in a merger with my company as a strategic business decision that would reshape his entire logistics operation. My father had no idea. The following months were a study in contrast. My father's calls increased in frequency, each one a catalogue of Marcus Castellano's virtues. Marcus said this about market trends. Marcus introduced me to the planning commissioner. Marcus is hosting a charity gala. Black tie, 500 guests, the mayor will be there. Never once did he ask about my work. At Thanksgiving, gathered around my sister's dining table, Dad held court. Marcus is a visionary, he announced, gesturing with his wine glass. He sees potential where others see risk. That's why he invested in my firm. How wonderful, Mom said, beaming. Jessica, didn't you meet Marcus at the club last week? Briefly, Jessica said, smoothing her designer dress. He was very charming. He asked about you and Dad, said you're doing impressive things. Dad's chest puffed with pride. We're closing a $12 million property deal next month. 3 office buildings in the financial district. I'd eaten my turkey in silence. Logicor had closed a $230 million contract with a major shipping company that same week. It hadn't come up. Jennifer, how's your computer work? Mom asked, the question clearly an afterthought. It's going well, I said simply. Still in that same position? I was the CEO and majority shareholder. I was the position. Yes. Well, stability is important, she said, already turning back to Jessica. Now, tell us more about the beach house renovations. Later, when I was helping clear dishes, Dad cornered me in the kitchen. The gala is in 3 weeks, he said quietly. Saturday, December 16th. Black tie at the Waldorf. Sounds nice. Marcus will be there. This is important for my business, Jennifer. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Your mother and I think it's best if you sit this one out. I'd rinsed the plate in my hands, watching water swirl down the drain. Why? Marcus moves in certain circles. There will be CEOs there, politicians, people who matter. We can't risk any awkwardness. You think I'd cause awkwardness? You know how you get at these events. Talking about technology, things nobody understands, wearing those pantsuits instead of proper gowns. He put his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that felt more controlling than comforting. Jessica knows how to work a room. You're more technical. It's not your fault. We just need to make the right impression. I dried my hands on a towel. Okay, Dad. Relief flooded his face. Thank you for understanding. This is my big break, Jennifer. Everything I've worked for. He left the kitchen without asking what I'd been working for. The following Monday, my executive assistant Sarah knocked on my office door. The Castellano team just confirmed, she said. Tuesday, December 19th, 9 a.m. Marcus Castellano, his CFO, and their head of logistics operations. Conference room A? No, Mr. Castellano specifically requested to meet in your office. He said he wants to see where the vision originates. Sarah smiled. His words. I glanced at the calendar. That's 3 days after my father's gala. Is that a problem? I thought about my father's voice on the phone, warning me not to embarrass him. I thought about years of being dismissed, overlooked, treated as the family's technical disappointment while my sister was celebrated for marrying well. I thought about the Wall Street Journal cover on my wall, the one my parents had never mentioned. No problem at all, I said. Confirm the meeting. Saturday arrived cold and clear. I spent the morning reviewing merger projections, then went to my regular yoga class, had lunch with my friend Rebecca who ran a nonprofit, and returned home to my penthouse. My phone buzzed around 6 p.m. Jessica, Mom wants to know if you're upset about not being invited. Me, I'm fine. Jessica, okay, good. Dad's really nervous. This Marcus guy is apparently a huge deal. Me, he is. Jessica, Mom got a new gown. $4,000. Dad almost had a heart attack, but she said it's an investment. I looked at my own closet filled with designer clothes I'd purchased without checking price tags. Tell her she'll look beautiful. Jessica, You're being weird. But okay. I spent the evening reading a biography of Ada Lovelace and went to bed at 10. My phone showed 7 photos from the gala posted to my mother's Facebook around 11 p.m. She and Dad flanked Marcus Castellano in one shot, both of them glowing with pride. The caption read, "Honored to celebrate with visionary leader Marcus Castellano. Grateful for wonderful partnerships and bright futures." Marcus looked polished and professional in his tuxedo, his silver hair immaculate, his smile practiced. I'd seen that same smile in the Financial Times profile our research team had compiled. He was 53, twice divorced, known for aggressive negotiation tactics and an uncanny ability to identify emerging market trends before his competitors. He was also about to discover that the technical daughter his new partner kept at home was the CEO whose company he'd been courting for a $400 million merger. Tuesday morning arrived with crystalline winter sunlight streaming through my office windows. I dressed carefully, charcoal gray suit from Armani, white silk blouse, Louboutin heels. Professional, polished, powerful. My dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun. Pearl earrings my grandmother had left me. Sarah appeared at 8:30. The Castellano team is in the lobby. Security is bringing them up. Have coffee and water set up in my office, please. The merger documents should be on the side table. Already done. She paused. Are you okay? You seem different today. I smoothed my jacket. I'm fine. Just ready. At 8:55 my phone buzzed. Dad's number. The meeting with Castellano went perfectly last night, he said without preamble. He's investing another $20 million in our expansion. Jennifer, this is it. This is everything I've worked toward. That's wonderful, Dad. Marcus is the real deal. He knows everyone, controls everything. I'm so glad we kept you away from the gala. He mentioned he had a big meeting this morning, some tech merger thing. Can you imagine moving in those circles? He laughed. Anyway, just wanted to share the good news. I'm happy for you, I said quietly. Talk later. He hung up. I set my phone face down on my desk and stood to straighten the Wall Street Journal cover on my wall. The headline read, "The Algorithm Queen. How Jennifer Anderson's AI platform revolutionized logistics." The photo showed me standing in our data center, arms crossed, expression confident. My door opened. Sarah stepped in, her expression carefully neutral. "Ms. Anderson, the Castellano Holdings team is here. Show them in, please." She held the door wide. Marcus Castellano entered first, flanked by 2 executives I recognized from their corporate photos. Alan Wu, CFO, and David Brennan, head of logistics. Marcus wore a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. His confident stride faltered for just a fraction of a second when he saw me standing behind the desk. "Mr. Castellano," I said, extending my hand. "Welcome to Logicore AI. I'm Jennifer Anderson, CO." His face went through a remarkable transformation. Confidence to confusion to recognition to something approaching shock. His eyes darted from me to the nameplate on my desk. Jennifer Anderson, Chief Executive Officer, to the Wall Street Journal cover on the wall, then back to my face. "You're..." He started then stopped. "Yes," I said simply. "Please sit down. Can I offer you coffee?" Alan Wu and David Brennan exchanged glances but moved to the conference table I'd had set up by the windows. Marcus remained standing, staring at me like I'd materialized out of smoke. "Robert Anderson's daughter," he finally said. "That's correct. He never mentioned. I mean, at the gala Saturday he said his daughter worked in tech, but..." Marcus seemed genuinely at a loss, a state I suspected was foreign to him. "He said I work in tech?" I settled into my chair, gesturing for him to sit. "That's accurate if incomplete. I founded Logicore 7 years ago. We're currently valued at $2.3 billion, employ 847 people across 4 countries, and generate $680 million in annual revenue. Our AI-driven logistics platform serves 62 Fortune 500 companies." I slid a folder across the desk. "But I assume your team has already briefed you thoroughly on our operations." Marcus slowly lowered himself into the chair across from me. His CFO Ellen jumped in smoothly. "Your platform's predictive analytics have industry-leading accuracy rates. The integration potential with our existing logistics infrastructure is remarkable." "Thank you," I said. We've been impressed with Castellano Transport Solutions as well. Your last-mile delivery network is exactly what we need to complete our end-to-end service offering. We spent the next 20 minutes discussing technical specifications, integration timelines, and market positioning. Marcus gradually recovered his composure, slipping into businessman mode. He was sharp, I had to give him that. His questions were incisive, his understanding of the logistics landscape comprehensive. But his eyes kept drifting to the Wall Street Journal cover. Finally, during a pause while David pulled up market projections on his laptop, Marcus leaned forward. I have to ask, he said quietly. Your father has never once mentioned that you run a multi-billion-dollar company. He doesn't know, I said simply. Ellen's eyebrows rose. David stopped typing. How could he not know? Marcus asked. I met his gaze steadily. He's never asked. I've told him I work in tech. He's never inquired further. To my parents, success looks like my sister. Married well, right address, right social circles. They can't quite compute success that comes from building something. Marcus sat back in his chair, his expression unreadable. At the gala Saturday, Robert spent 45 minutes telling me about his vision for Anderson and Associates. He mentioned both his daughters. He said Jessica was married to a Thornton, very successful socially. He said you worked for some tech company and were finding your way. The words stung, though I didn't show it. That sounds right. He has no idea, Marcus repeated almost to himself. Then his expression shifted, something calculating entering his eyes. Does he know about this meeting? He knows you have a meeting about a tech merger. He doesn't know it's with my company. Is this? David muttered. Ellen was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. That must be difficult. I shrugged slightly. You learn to adjust your expectations. Marcus drummed his fingers on the table, his business mind clearly working through implications. This merger, he said slowly. It's a good deal for both companies. Your technology, our infrastructure, combined market reach. The projections show 23% revenue growth in year 1, 37% by year 3. Assuming integration goes smoothly, I agreed. It will. He leaned forward. I want this merger, Ms. Anderson. The question is, does our connection through your father complicate things for you? I'd been waiting for this question. My relationship with my parents is separate from my business decisions. If this merger makes strategic sense for Logicor and our shareholders, their opinion is irrelevant. Even when they find out? When they find out, I corrected, they'll have to reconcile their assumptions with reality. That's not my problem to solve. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then smiled slowly. It was a different smile than the practiced one from the gala photos. This one held genuine respect. Your father is a small-thinking man running a small-time operation that I invested in as a favor to a mutual acquaintance. You're a visionary running a company that's reshaping an entire industry. He stood, extending his hand. I know which Anderson I'd rather do business with. I shook his hand firmly. Then let's talk numbers. We negotiated for 3 hours. Marcus was tough but fair, pushing hard on valuation and control structures but respecting my boundaries. By noon we'd outlined the basic terms. A $400 million transaction that would merge Castellano Transport Solutions into Logicor AI as a wholly owned subsidiary. I'd retain controlling interest and the CEO position. Marcus would join our board and his logistics team would integrate with our technology platform. My lawyers will draft the preliminary agreements, Ellen said, packing her briefcase. We should have something for review by Friday. We'll have our legal team standing by, I confirmed. As they prepared to leave, Marcus paused at my door. Can I ask you something off the record? Of course. Are you going to tell your father before the announcement goes public? I considered this. The merger would be announced in 2 weeks, once the paperwork was finalized. It would be front-page news in the business section. My father would see it. I'll give him a courtesy call before the press release, I said. Whether he hears what I'm telling him is up to him. Marcus shook his head slowly. For what it's worth, Robert is making a serious mistake underestimating you. He's made that mistake for 32 years. I've learned to work around it. After they left, I stood at my window looking out over the city Marcus supposedly owned half of. My phone buzzed. Dad again. Jennifer, quick question. Do you know anything about AI technology? I closed my eyes briefly. Why? Marcus mentioned the company he's merging with uses AI for logistics. Sounded interesting. Thought maybe your tech job might have some overlap. Maybe, I said. Anyway, this merger is going to be huge for him. $400 million. Can you imagine that kind of money? He laughed. We're having dinner with him next week to celebrate. Your mother is already planning her outfit. That's nice, Dad. You should really try to understand business better, Jennifer. Marcus Castellano is the kind of man you should study. He turned $50 million into a logistics empire. I looked at the Wall Street Journal cover. At the Forbes profile from last month naming me one of the top 50 most influential CEOs under 40. At the shelf of industry awards my executive team had insisted on displaying. I'll keep that in mind, I said quietly. The next 2 weeks moved quickly. Lawyers negotiated contract details. My executive team prepared integration plans. The board of directors approved the merger unanimously, excited about the expansion potential and impressed with Castellano Holdings' infrastructure. My father called twice more, each time bubbling with excitement about Marcus Castellano's brilliance. He's taking me to the Metropolitan Club next week, he said. Do you know how hard it is to get membership there? But Marcus, he sponsored me. Your mother is over the moon. That's wonderful, I said, reviewing merger documents while he talked. He mentioned the tech merger again. Said the CEO is some young woman who built the company from nothing. Reminded him of himself 20 years ago, he said. Dad laughed. Can you imagine? A woman running a multi-billion-dollar company. Times certainly have changed. Yes, I said. They have. I didn't tell him. Part of me wanted to hear his reaction when he realized the CEO Marcus was praising was his own daughter. But a larger part of me wanted him to discover it the same way he'd approached my entire life, through public announcement without personal connection, when it was too late to claim he'd known all along. Jessica called the night before the announcement. Mom wants to know if you're free for brunch Sunday. She's inviting the Castellanos, Marcus and his girlfriend. Very exclusive. I have plans, I said. Come on, Jennifer. This is important to Dad. Marcus is a big deal. I know exactly how big a deal Marcus Castellano is. Then come. Support Dad for once instead of hiding in your apartment. My apartment. My $8.9 million penthouse that she'd never visited because she'd never asked. I'll try, I said, knowing I wouldn't. Friday morning, December 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern, Logicor AI and Castellano Holdings jointly announced a $400 million merger. The press release went out simultaneously to the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Bloomberg and Reuters. Logicor AI, the industry-leading logistics technology platform founded by CEO Jennifer Anderson, announced today a definitive agreement to acquire Castellano Transport Solutions for $400 million in cash and stock. My phone started ringing at 9:03 a.m. Jessica first. Jennifer. Oh my God. Is this you? Yes. The merger. With Marcus Castellano. You're the CEO? Yes. How did I not know this? How did Em not know this? No one asked. She was quiet for a beat. Have to go. Mom is calling. She hung up. My phone immediately rang again. Jennifer and Anderson, what is the meaning of this? Good morning, Mom. The Wall Street Journal. Your face is in the Wall Street Journal. With Marcus Castellano. It says you're acquiring his company for $400 million. That's correct. The merger closes in 60 days pending regulatory approval. You never told us you were a CEO. I told you I work in tech. You said you work for a tech company. Not that you own one. You never asked for clarification. Don't you dare make this our fault. Her voice rose. Your father is having a heart attack. Do you understand? Marcus Castellano invested $50 million in his firm and now Marcus is calling him saying he just did a $400 million deal with his daughter and your father had no idea his daughter was even in business. I've been in business for 7 years. We thought you were a middle manager or something. We thought, she stopped and I could hear my father's voice in the background, loud and agitated. Your father wants to talk to you. A rustle as the phone changed hands. What the hell, Jennifer? Dad's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. What the hell is this? It's a merger, Dad. Good for both companies. Marcus called me personally. Do you know what that was like? Having him ask why I never mentioned my daughter ran a multi-billion-dollar company? Having to admit I had no idea. I told you I work in tech. You said you work in tech. Not that you're some big shot CEO. Not that you're on the cover of magazines. Not that you're doing $400 million deals. He was shouting now. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Marcus thinks I'm an idiot. He said, your daughter is remarkable, Robert. You must be so proud of what she's built. And I had to stand there like a fool because I didn't even know what she'd built. You could have asked any time in the last 7 years. Don't put this on me. You deliberately hid this. I told you about my company multiple times. You weren't interested. Because you made it sound like nothing. His voice cracked. You made it sound like some little tech startup, some job you had. You never said, God damn it, Jennifer. Marcus Castellano. The man I've been trying to impress for 6 months, and it turns out he's merging with my own daughter's company and I look like a complete fool. The line went quiet except for his heavy breathing. I'm sorry you feel foolish, I said carefully. That wasn't my intention. Then what was your intention? To embarrass me? To make me look small? To build a company? That's all I've ever been trying to do. By keeping your own family in the dark? You kept yourself in the dark, Dad. I've been in the light the whole time. You just never looked. He hung up. The next 48 hours were chaos. My phone rang constantly. Investors, board members, media requests, industry colleagues offering congratulations. The merger announcement was trending on LinkedIn. CNBC requested an interview. Forbes wanted a follow-up profile on the surprising family connection. I declined most media requests. The merger spoke for itself. Sunday morning my doorbell rang at 11 a.m. I opened it to find Jessica standing there, still in her designer athleisure from yoga class. You live here, she said, looking past me into the penthouse. For 3 years. She walked in without being invited, her eyes wide as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern furniture, the original artwork on the walls. This place must cost. It did. She turned to face me. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? I gestured to the sofa. We sat. I did tell you, Jessica. Multiple times. Remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago when I mentioned launching our European expansion? Or Christmas last year when I talked about our Series C funding? Or literally any time in the last 7 years when I tried to share what I was working on? You never said you were the CEO. I said I founded the company. I said I ran it. What did you think that meant? She was quiet, picking at her manicured nails. I guess I thought it was small. Like one of those little startups that never really goes anywhere. You always seemed so normal. I am normal. Normal people don't do $400 million mergers with billionaires, Jennifer. Some do. She looked around the penthouse again. Mom is devastated. She feels like you lied to her. I never lied. I just stopped trying to make her understand. And Dad, he's a mess. He keeps saying Marcus Castellano must think he's a joke. That his own daughter accomplished more than he ever did and he didn't even know. I felt a twinge of something, not quite guilt but not quite satisfaction either. That's not about me, Jessica. That's about Dad's relationship with his own achievements. Easy for you to say. You're the one who succeeded. You're successful too. You have a beautiful home, a loving husband, a life you're proud of. I married well. You built an empire. She met my eyes. There's a difference. We sat in silence for a moment. What happens now? Jessica asked quietly. The merger closes in 60 days. My company gets bigger. Marcus gets our technology. Business continues. I met with Mom and Dad. I stood walking to the window. The city stretched out below, glittering in winter sunlight. That's up to them. I haven't changed. I'm the same person I was last week, last year, 7 years ago. If they want to see that person clearly, they can. If they want to keep seeing the version they created in their heads, that's their choice. Jennifer. I spent 32 years trying to make them see me, Jessica. I'm done trying. She stood, collecting her purse. At the door she paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. Thank you. After she left, I made coffee and opened my laptop. 347 unread emails. I started working through them, the familiar rhythm of business decisions and strategic planning settling my mind. My phone buzzed. Marcus Castellano. I wanted to apologize, he said, for your father's reaction. I didn't mean to cause family drama. You didn't cause anything, I assured him. This was inevitable. Still, Robert called me 6 times this weekend. He seems to think I'm judging him. Are you? Marcus laughed. I'm judging his spectacular failure to recognize talent when it was sitting at his own dinner table. But that's his loss, not mine. The merger is solid regardless of family dynamics. Agreed. I also wanted to tell you that I'm withdrawing my additional investment in Anderson and Associates. I sat up straighter. Marcus, that's not necessary. Our business relationship shouldn't affect your decisions about my father's firm. It's not about you. It's about him. Robert called me yesterday demanding I pull out of the merger with you. Said it made him look bad, that I should invest in his firm instead, that family should support family. He paused. He actually suggested I was betraying him by doing business with you. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be. It showed me who he really is. A man more concerned with his ego than his daughter's success isn't someone I want to partner with. His voice softened slightly. You've built something remarkable, Jennifer. You did it without family support, without recognition, without any of the advantages connections usually provide. That takes a different kind of strength. Thank you. See you at the closing. 3 weeks later, my father requested a meeting. We met at a quiet coffee shop in Midtown, neutral territory. He looked older somehow, the lines around his eyes deeper. He ordered black coffee and sat across from me without speaking for a long moment. Marcus pulled his investment, he finally said. I heard. Anderson and Associates is finished. Without his backing, I can't close the deals I'd planned. The firm will have to fold. I'm sorry, Dad. Are you? He looked at me directly. You're merging with the man who just destroyed my business. Marcus didn't destroy your business. Your reaction to the merger did. His jaw tightened. I called him upset. That's natural. My daughter did a massive deal without even mentioning it to me. I mentioned my company to you dozens of times. You weren't interested. Because you never made it sound important. Or because nothing I did could ever be as important as what Jessica accomplished by marrying well? The words hung between us. Dad's face flushed. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me one thing about my company, Dad. One thing about what I've built. Not what you read in the Wall Street Journal last week. Something you knew before. He opened his mouth, then closed it. You can't, I said quietly. Because in 7 years you never asked. Not once. You should have told me. I did. You weren't listening. We sat in silence. Outside, the city moved on. People rushing to meetings, making deals, building things, tearing things down. The world turning regardless of our small family drama. Your mother wants you to come to Sunday dinner, Dad said finally. Why? Because you're family. I've always been family. That didn't seem to matter before. Jennifer. Routes, warehouse needs, delivery timing. We serve 62 Fortune 500 companies. Our technology has reduced shipping costs by an average of 17% across the industry and improved delivery accuracy by 23%. We employ 847 people. Last year we generated $680 million in revenue. He really listened. The merger with Castellano gives us last-mile delivery infrastructure we were lacking. Combined, we'll be able to offer end-to-end logistics solutions that no competitor can match. It positions us to go after the $2 trillion global logistics market. I paused. I started it in a garage 7 years ago with $50,000 I'd saved and a belief that I could build something better than what existed. Why didn't you ask me for help? Would you have given it? He flinched. I don't know. I do. You would have told me to get a real job, marry someone stable, stop playing with computers. I met his eyes. So I did it without you. And succeeded. Yes. I was wrong, he said quietly. About what success looks like. About what you were capable of. About what mattered. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was something. Sunday dinner, I said. I'll come. Once. We'll see how it goes. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. But Dad, if you introduce me as someone who works in tech, I'm walking out. A small smile tugged at his mouth. Understood. The merger closed 63 days later. Logicor AI acquired Castellano Transport Solutions for $412 million in final valuation, $12 million more than initial projections due to positive market response. Our combined company was valued at $3.1 billion. My personal net worth increased to $1.8 billion. The Wall Street Journal ran another profile. This one mentioned my father briefly. Anderson credits her drive in part to a desire to prove herself, stemming from a family dynamic where business success was traditionally defined through connections rather than creation. My father called after he read it. Did you have to mention that? They asked about my motivation. I was honest. It makes me sound like a bad father. Were you a good one? Silence. I'm trying to be better, he said finally. I know. Sunday dinner. Your mother is making pot roast. I'll be there. I hung up and returned to my desk. The city glittered below. Somewhere in those towers my father was closing his firm, accepting a position as a senior broker at someone else's company. Starting over at 63. Somewhere else, my sister was planning her next charity luncheon, living the life she'd chosen. And here in my corner office I was building the future I'd envisioned in that garage 7 years ago. Not better than them. Not worse. Just different. Just mine. My phone buzzed. Marcus Castellano. Congratulations, partner. Ready to change the world. I smiled, pulling up the integration timeline our teams had prepared. Let's get started.